The slap came before the apology ever could. Amira pressed her fingers to her cheek, not because it hurt. It did, but because some part of her mind needed a moment to confirm that this was real. That Daniel, the man she had relocated to Seoul for, the man whose immigration paperwork she had helped file with her own savings, had just struck her in the middle of his apartment. His apartment, not hers, never hers. She had made the mistake of forgetting that. "You think I'm going to let you embarrass me?" Daniel's voice was low, shaking with something that lived between rage and cowardice. He was Nigerian-American, handsome in a way that had once made her breath catch, now standing with his chest heaving and his finger pointed like a verdict. "You spoke to my boss tonight. You smiled at him." "I was being polite." Her voice was steady. She had learned steadiness the hard way. "Get rid of her." He was speaking to someone behind her now. Amira turned. Two men stood near the apartment entrance, large, silent, the kind of quiet that felt expensive. She hadn't even heard them come in. One of them moved toward her, not aggressively, but with intent, like a door being slowly closed. She grabbed her bag. She would walk out herself. She didn't need to be gotten rid of asterisk. She had survived worse than this, worse than Seoul, worse than a man who confused possession with love. She was 28 years old, and she had survived things Daniel didn't have the emotional vocabulary to understand. The elevator took too long. She took the stairs. By the time Amira hit the street, the cold wrapped itself around her like something trying to be kind. Seoul at midnight had a specific kind of energy, neon and restraint, all that life pressing against its own edges. She walked without direction, heels clicking against the pavement, eyes burning but refusing. Not tonight. She would not cry on this street tonight. Her phone showed no local contacts worth calling. She had let her friendships in this city thin out, slowly, the way Daniel had wanted. She saw it clearly now, how methodically she had been trimmed from every support, how she had called it asterisk love while it was happening. She stopped walking when she realized she had no idea where she was. The street was narrow, tucked between two older buildings that predated Seoul's obsession with glass and ambition. A restaurant on the left had its lights still on, warm gold spilling from the window. She could see figures inside, not many, but enough that it looked safer than standing alone in the dark. Amira pushed the door open. The conversation inside stopped. Not loudly, not all at once, but it stopped the way things stop when something unexpected enters a room. She was the unexpected thing. Light brown skin, natural hair pulled back in a way that had started the evening elegant and was now barely holding, a black dress that had survived the night better than she had. She stood in the doorway with her chin raised because that was what her mother had taught her. "Walk into every room like you were invited." There were 6 men seated at a long table. Korean, formally dressed, the kind of formal that wasn't about weddings or celebrations. The kind that meant business conducted after hours. Bottles on the table. Documents she could see had been quickly covered. Eyes that assessed her in under a second and arrived at complicated conclusions. She almost backed out. Then one of the men at the far end of the table stood. He was tall for the room, which was saying something. Early 30s, with a face that seemed to have been arranged by someone who took the work seriously, angular, composed, carrying a stillness that didn't read as calm so much as asterisk controlled. His suit was dark, no tie, and he looked at her the way people look at things that don't fit their current equation. Not unkindly, just precisely. "Are you lost?" he asked. His Korean-accented English was clean, unhurried. "I'm not sure yet," Amira said, honest. She had nothing left tonight for anything else. Something shifted in his expression. Not softened, that wasn't the right word. Shifted, like a calculation had been updated with new information. "Sit," he said. One of the other men at the table made a sound, short, questioning, like a subordinate who knows better than to speak, but can't quite stop himself. The tall man didn't look at him. The sound died. Amira sat. A glass appeared in front of her, water, not alcohol. She didn't know why that detail made her throat tighten. Nobody had offered her water tonight. Small thing, stupid thing to notice. "You're not Korean," he said. Neither are you, she said, in whatever context you mean. He looked at her again, really looked. Then, for the first time, the edge of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile, the asterisk idea of one. Jin, he said. Amira. He nodded, like her name confirmed something he'd already suspected. Then he turned back to his men and spoke in Korean, low and even, and whatever he said made 3 of them leave the table immediately, and the remaining 2 suddenly find the middle distance deeply fascinating. She should have asked what this place was. She should have asked who these men were, what was under those covered documents, why 6 formally dressed men were meeting in a restaurant after midnight. She didn't. Because Jin picked up her glass, replaced it with a fresh one, and said quietly, like it was just information, "You're safe here." And for reasons she could not yet explain to herself, the thing that terrified her most in that moment was that she believed him. She woke up on a couch that cost more than 3 months of her soul's salary. That was the first thought. The second was that she didn't remember falling asleep. The third, and this one arrived with the cold efficiency of a bucket of water, was that she was in an apartment that was not hers, in a city where she currently had nowhere to go, with a man she had known for approximately 4 hours sitting across from her reading documents like she was a piece of furniture he had temporarily acquired. Jin didn't look up when she sat upright. "There's food," he said, "on the counter." Amira looked. There was rice, soup still steaming, something that smelled like it had been prepared with the kind of attention that couldn't be microwaved. She looked back at him. "Did you cook?" "No." "Did someone come in while I was sleeping?" "Yes." She let that sit for exactly 1 second. "And that's not alarming to you?" "Not to me, no." He turned a page. "It might be to you, that's fair." She stood, smoothed her dress, and walked to the counter because her body had apparently decided that hunger outranked dignity this morning. She ate standing up, watching him. He had changed from last night, still dark clothing, still no tie, but there was something slightly undone about him now, a button at his collar, sleeves pushed back. It made him look younger and somehow more dangerous at the same time. "Where am I?" she asked. "Hanamdong." Wealthy district. She had passed through it once with Daniel, who had pointed out the buildings with the reverence of a man who wanted to live in them. "Why did you bring me here?" Jin set down his papers then, looked at her directly. He had a way of doing that, giving his full attention like it was a resource he distributed deliberately, and when it landed on you, it landed completely. "You walked into a private meeting," he said, "in that part of the city at that hour." He paused. "I needed to know who sent you." Amira stopped chewing. "Nobody sent me." "I know that now." "How?" "Because someone sent to collect information doesn't fall asleep in 20 minutes from emotional exhaustion." He said it plainly, without cruelty. "You'd had a hard night." She set the spoon down carefully. "You should have woken me up, asked me to leave." "I should have," he agreed. "But you didn't." "No." She waited for him to explain that. He didn't offer to. She was beginning to understand that Jin operated on a specific economy of words. Nothing wasted, nothing decorative, and the gaps between his sentences were not awkward silences but active ones, loaded with things he'd decided not to say yet. "I need to find a hotel," she said. "Your ex canceled your bank cards this morning." The spoon she had just picked back up went back down. "Excuse me. I had someone check when you mentioned his name last night. Daniel Akafer, dual Nigerian-American citizenship, works at Lot Group's External Partnerships Division." Jin's voice carried no heat. He was reading from a fact sheet in his head. "You were listed as a dependent on his foreigner registration. He filed a cancellation at 8 a.m. The room felt slightly smaller. "You investigated me." "I investigated him," a distinction he clearly felt was important. "You were incidental." Amira pressed 2 fingers to her temple. Daniel had canceled her cards, which meant her access to their shared account, the one she had been quietly, carefully saving her own money into, was gone. The apartment was his lease. Her name existed in Seoul almost entirely in relation to him, and he had just begun the process of erasing it. She had known he was controlling. She had not known he was organized about it. "I have money in a Nigerian account," she said, mostly to herself. "International transfers take 3 to 5 business days, and you'd need a local account to receive it, which requires a registered address." Jin stood, rolling his sleeve back down. "Which you don't currently have." She stared at him. "Are you telling me my options, or are you telling me I don't have any?" "I'm telling you the landscape." He moved toward the window. Outside, Seoul's daytime version of itself was in full motion, all that ambition in daylight. "So you can make an informed decision." "About what?" He turned. "I have a position, house management, essentially. This apartment needs someone with organizational intelligence. It pays well, comes with accommodation, and is entirely legitimate." He held her gaze. "Before you ask, there are no conditions attached to it that you would find uncomfortable." Amira looked at this man, this stranger, this midnight restaurant mystery, and cataloged everything her instincts were telling her simultaneously. That he was dangerous, yes. That he was also, bizarrely, straightforward in a way Daniel had never been in 3 years. That this offer was either the most genuine thing anyone had done for her in Seoul, or a door that locked from the outside once you stepped through. "Why?" she asked. "You need a solution. I need reliable staff." "That's not why." He was quiet for a moment. Actually quiet, not strategically. Then, "No, it's not only why." She should have left. Found a shelter, called the Nigerian embassy, contacted a friend back home, and explained the spectacular mess her life had become. She had options. They were just all painful and slow and required her to be small while she sorted them. She looked at Jin. "I have conditions," she said. Something behind his eyes moved. "Tell me." "I work, I'm not decorative. I don't answer questions about my personal life, and I don't explain my past to your staff or your associates." She held his gaze. "And if I decide to leave, that's my decision. No complications." He studied her for a long moment. "Agreed." She nodded once. He nodded once. It felt less like an employment agreement and more like the opening move of something neither of them had a name for yet. Her phone buzzed. She looked down, a message from Daniel's number. No words, just a photograph. Her last night walking into that restaurant, taken from outside. Someone had followed her. Her head came up sharply. Jin was already looking at his own phone. "I see it," he said quietly. "What does it mean?" His jaw tightened, just slightly, just enough. "It means," he said, "that your ex-boyfriend knows whose restaurant you walked into last night." He slid his phone into his pocket. "And now someone very dangerous knows you exist." The name was Park Sung-ho. Jin said it the way people say the names of storms, not with fear, but with the particular respect owed to something that destroyed without preference. "He runs the Northern Distribution Network in Seoul," Jin said. He was standing near the window again, but differently now, not contemplative, alert. "We've been in a territorial disagreement for 8 months. He's been looking for leverage." Amira processed this with the focused calm of a woman who had already used up her panic quota for the week. "And Daniel works for him." "Daniel works with him. There's a difference." Jin turned. "Your ex wasn't just a bad boyfriend, Amira. He was placed." She sat with that. Placed. As in intentional. As in, she had not simply made a poor romantic choice. She had been, in some architecture she was only now seeing the shape of, used, moved like a piece. Positioned near Jin's network through Daniel's work connections, her presence in Seoul explained away by love, which was the oldest cover story in existence. "How long?" she asked. Her voice was steady. She needed it to be. "We think 14 months. 14 months. She and Daniel had been together for 3 years, which meant for the last 14 months, every dinner, every argument, every moment she had privately wondered if she was enough, had existed inside someone else's plan. Something cold moved through her chest and settled. "He didn't know I'd walk into your restaurant." No, Jin said. That was yours, that was real. He paused. Which is why the photograph exists. Someone was watching Daniel's building. They saw you leave, they followed you. His eyes stayed on her. They didn't expect you to walk through that door, but now that you did, Sung-ho will use it. Use me how? Jin was quiet for exactly 1 beat too long. Tell me, she said. He'll assume we're connected, that I brought you in deliberately. A woman close to Daniel, now inside my residence. He stopped. He'll move faster now, on plans he's been building slowly. Amira stood up. She needed to be standing for this next part. So my being here puts you at risk. My being asterisk anywhere puts me at risk. That's not new. Jin, she said his name directly, which made him go very still. Don't manage me. I'm not one of your men. Tell me the actual problem. He looked at her for a long moment. Something moved across his face, not irritation, closer to recognition. Like he was recalibrating something. Sung-ho will try to take you, he said, to confirm what I'm using you for, or to use you himself. The room was silent. Okay, Amira said. Jin blinked. Okay. I'm not going to perform shock. I'm already inside it. What's the plan? The plan, as it existed that morning, involved Amira not leaving the apartment. She accepted this with conditions. She needed her things from Daniel's building. Clothing, her Nigerian passport, a hard drive she kept her design work on because she was a freelance brand strategist and her entire professional life sat on that device. Jin sent 2 men. They returned with 1 bag. Daniel wouldn't let them take the rest, the taller one reported. He had a jaw like a geographic feature and refused to make eye contact with Amira, which she was already categorizing as interesting. He kept my passport. Her voice didn't rise, but something behind it did. He said it was for safekeeping. Amira turned to Jin. I need that passport. You'll have it by tonight. Jin. By tonight, he repeated, quietly, finally. She believed him. She was going to need to examine, at some point, how quickly and completely she had started believing this man. She spent the afternoon in the spare room he'd designated as hers, which was clean and thoughtfully arranged in the way that suggested someone had made it habitable without quite anticipating who asterisk would inhabit it. She found a notepad and made 3 lists: what she knew, what she needed, what she couldn't afford to feel yet. The 3rd list she folded and put face down. At 4 p.m., Jin knocked. He didn't open the door until she answered, which was another small thing she filed away. Come, he said, there's someone you should meet. The someone was a woman, 50s, seated at the main table with tea. She had clearly made herself from Jin's kitchen like she owned the right to. She was Korean, sharp-featured, wearing the expression of someone who found most things mildly disappointing. This is Dr. Yoon, Jin said. She manages certain complications for me. I manage asterisk him, Dr. Yoon said, in perfect English, gesturing at Jin with her teacup. Sit down, child. You look like you've been hit by a man and then by a city. Amira sat. I've looked at your situation, Dr. Yoon said, producing a folder that had no business existing on such short notice. Your visa is tied to Daniel's sponsorship, which he's begun withdrawing. You have a degree in communications from Lagos, a portfolio that's quite impressive for someone who's been letting a mediocre man define her schedule, and a mother in Abuja who hasn't heard from you in 11 days. Amira stared. How do you know about my mother? Your Instagram, you post for her, you stopped 11 days ago. Dr. Yoon's eyes were not unkind. They were just accurate. She's worried. The folded list in the bedroom felt suddenly very loud. What are you telling me? Amira asked. I'm telling you that you are not without power here. You simply cannot see it yet. Dr. Yoon sipped her tea. I'm also telling you that Sung-ho's man has been sitting in a car outside this building since this morning. Jin, standing at the edge of the room, said nothing. Amira looked at him. You knew. Yes. Were you going to tell me? Dr. Yoon wanted to assess you first. Amira looked back at the older woman. Assess me for what? Dr. Yoon set down her cup. Her eyes moved to Jin briefly, carrying a conversation Amira couldn't read, then back. Jin has a meeting tomorrow night, she said, with 3 rival network heads including Sung-ho. It's been arranged for 6 weeks, neutral ground, necessary negotiation. He was going to attend alone. She folded her hands. He will no longer be attending alone. The silence stretched. You want me at the meeting, Amira said slowly. I want you visible asterisk, Jin said from across the room. His voice was low, carefully even. Sung-ho needs to believe you matter to me, genuinely. Not as a strategy he'll see through performance. If he believes you're significant, he won't move on you recklessly. It buys us time to sort the rest. Amira looked at him for a long time. And do I? She asked. Jin frowned slightly. Do you what? Matter to you, she kept her voice level, genuinely. The room held its breath. Jin held hers. Yes, he said, one word. No decoration. Delivered like something he'd been aware of longer than was entirely convenient. Dr. Yoon picked up her tea again. Good, she said, as if something had been confirmed. Now we need to discuss what she wears.